Okay, so in cults, we have not only jewelry control, but a lot of what I call beauty control. And this fits inside of a larger topic of appearance control. I'm Daniella, scholar of cults, extreme groups, and extremely bad leadership. I wrote a book called Uncultured about growing up in the Children of God religious cult and then going into the cult of the US Army and looking at those parallels. You can get autographed copies in the bio. So beauty control, right? So inside of appearance control, we usually see it break down into four really specific parts, which is hair, none of this in cults usually, body size, usually they want you to be skinny, sometimes on rare occasions, muscular or fat, like we saw in the Twin Flames cult, body coverage, usually modest, but sometimes, like in Children of God, body on display, like in some narcissistic relationships, etc. And then underwear, including pantyhose and socks. But we also have like beauty control, like a kind of extra thing, which includes jewelry, tattoos, body modification, makeup, etc. So I'm going to read this little part that I've written about it in the book that I'm writing now, The Culting of America. Beauty control. Another aspect of body control in cults is the regulation of body modifications. Tattoos, piercings, and other body modifications might be strictly controlled or outright forbidden, like in the Children of God, where only ear piercings for women and girls were allowed. On the flip side, some cults might require members to get specific tattoos or marks as a sign of their allegiance. For example, Nexium convinced members of their inner circle, DOS, to get Keith Raniere's initials branded into their pelvises. On the extreme end of enforced body modifications is the plastic surgery cult, led by plastic surgeon Dr. Norman Baker, shows just how far some cults will go to control their members' bodies and minds. Dr. Baker drew people in by promising them physical perfection and external youth through cosmetic surgery and a strict diet and exercise regimen. Members were often pushed into getting multiple, often unnecessary surgical procedures to meet Baker's ideal standard of beauty. He created a dependency by making followers believe their self-worth and standing in the group depended on their looks. This obsession with beauty and perfection led to a cycle of constant surgeries, making Baker a lot of money and keeping members physically and emotionally tied to the cult. Former members have described a manipulative atmosphere where questioning the group's practices could lead to being ostracized or verbally or psychologically abused. Restrictions on makeup, jewelry, and personal grooming are common in many cults as a means of controlling and homogenizing members' appearances. Some cults, like Jehovah's Witnesses, forbid the use of makeup entirely, viewing it as a symbol of vanity and distraction from spiritual or communal goals. The Children of God mostly prohibited women from wearing makeup, deeming it as incompatible with their ideal of natural beauty and letting God's love shine through our eyes. When women went out in public to do a variety of recruiting or money-gaining practices in which their appearance was paramount, makeup was, of course, allowed. In other groups, minimal makeup may be allowed, but only in specific styles that align with the cult's values. For instance, women in the FLDS, Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, are permitted to wear light, natural-looking makeup that adheres to their community's strict standards of femininity and modesty. These grooming regulations are often justified as ways to eliminate distractions and promote uniformity, but they also serve to exert control over individuals' personal autonomy. Similarly, the U.S. military strictly controls makeup usage, though each branch's specific rules differ slightly. The primary goal of all the makeup restrictions are to make sure no individual stands out. And this beauty control is something that women experience in modern American society writ large. These beauty rules tend to tighten up as women gain more freedom in society. Reproductive rights gave Western women control over our own bodies, as the weight of fashion models plummeted to 23% below that of ordinary women, eating disorders rose exponentially, and a mass neuroses was promoted that used food and weight to strip women of that sense of control. Ultimately, though it seems superficial, makeup and beauty control is an extremely potent weapon of overall coercive control. As Nancy Wolfe tells us in her blockbuster book, The Beauty Myth, the more legal and material hindrances women have broken through, the more strictly and heavily and cruelly images of female beauty have come to weigh upon us. She soberly reminds us that the qualities that a given period calls beautiful in women are merely symbols of the female behavior that that period considers desirable. The beauty myth is always actually prescribing behavior and not appearance. As the mostly white males in power begin to fear the freedoms women would gain, their answer was to painfully tighten the screws of beauty standards and begin to demand an ideology that makes women feel worth less, to counteract the way feminism had begun to make us feel worth more. Jewelry and personal grooming practices are also tightly regulated in many cults. Members may be forbidden from wearing any jewelry, including wedding rings, to discourage vanity and materialism. In some instances, only certain types of jewelry that have religious or symbolic significance are permitted. For example, members of the Hare Krishna movement may wear specific beads or necklaces that signify their commitment to the group's spiritual practices. Members of the Children of God were allowed to wear a yoke symbol around their necks. Personal grooming rules can extend to hair, with strict guidelines on acceptable hairstyles, lengths, and even hair colors, but we've already talked about hair. In the Rajneesh movement, followers were required to wear specific colors and styles of clothing and to maintain a certain level of grooming to reflect their devotion to the teachings of their leader, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. And of course, we cannot forget shower control, but that's its whole own section.